Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of You Gotta Meet, where I have meaningful human connections with people trying to make the world a better place. And today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Juan Lee, who is a transformational speaker and the author of Love Made Simple, a guide to inner contentment and success. With over 30 years of experience studying the power of love as a guiding principle, Juan helps individuals and organizations develop clarity, confidence, and purpose through a mindset rooted in love. How awesome is that? His core message is simple yet profound. Love is not just a feeling, it's a mindset. One that empowers better decision-making, deeper relationships, and meaningful success, which I love in itself. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to meet Juan Lee. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I am better having known you. I'll tell you that. That's making my day better. I mean, we always in these podcasts, the part that the audience doesn't see is that we jump right into a short conversation which lasts maybe 5 minutes before we get into the recording. Mm-hmm. And you and I have never met, and I just find it so easy already to speak to you, and it's so just clear that when you do speak about love, it clearly does emanate from you. I guess that's what has to happen, right? You have to be in a place of love before you can talk about it and bring it to the lives of others. Is that fair?
I tell you, you have summarized it very easily, and that's what the mindset is all about, is to getting you to that point of being authentically yourself so that you can share it with others.
Why do we have such a difficult time being authentic to ourselves and with others?
Well, that's a big loaded question, I think, because I think we, for the most part, have been taught and conditioned to be somebody else.
Right.
And so it's we're chasing something that's unauthentic, and we've been taught and trained to do it.
Right.
And so then to begin to think about being authentically, that means we got to do some work.
Right.
Because it's easy to follow someone else's blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would imagine that you would agree with me when I say that other people have given us these blueprints for life, in many cases, based on the way that they would identify or define love. And the easiest example of that would be a parent saying, if you go to this school and if you get this degree and if you get married by this particular age and check all these boxes, you will have a safe life, a secure life. You'll have a life that provides you with an income that allows you to do things like travel and have children and to be able to have certain material items. And because I want the most safety for you and the most security for you, I'm asking you to follow this blueprint because I love you. And of course, the hardest part about that is to flip the script and to recognize that it is the blueprint itself that sometimes can be taken away from the love.
I think you hit it on the head, because it's really changed. Because what makes, and when we say success, one of the things that I talk about is identifying what success looks for you.
All
okay?
Right.
And see what success looks like for you could be different than what it looks like for me. And see, it's built on what's authentically in me that's going to bring me fulfillment. See, fulfillment is what we're after, not someone else's success. Mm-hmm. And so when we begin to identify those authentic characteristics, those traits that are innately who we are, then we show up totally different in our surroundings, in what makes sense for us, what makes success real for us. And that's what I'm trying to get people to see, is that, success is in you. You don't have to find it. And you don't have to go looking for it outside of you from someone else. It's in you. All you got to do is just now develop it. You get to develop that, what I call that uniqueness in you.
Right.
That's what makes you an original,
and
one of a kind.
And what kind of questions would you say a person should start with if they are indeed trying to find out who they authentically are or to define success for themselves, whatever it may be, what's a starting place? What kind of advice do you give people?
Well, here's the thing. In many cases, to be able to unveil that authenticness in oneself is that we've got to do some introspection. And we've got to begin to first find out what's been preventing us from finding that authentic self. You know, we've got to be able to stop and look at ourselves and go like, okay, is this who I want to be? Who I want to be? Because I think the big step is knowing who you want to be. And it's not something outside. It's just something, what makes you feel good? What makes you, that thing that makes you uniquely who you are.
Right.
And not comparing it with anybody. And I think that's where, for many times, we get to the point in our lives where it starts. I mean, I was just in getting and preparing for your interview. I thought about something that I haven't thought about in years. And that was, what did I want to be when I was a child? What I wanted to be as a child, I hadn't thought about it in years. And I was thinking about it the other day, and what I ended up doing was significant and interesting enough, but it wasn't what I was doing. But here it is. When I was a child, when I was riding on my bicycle, I wanted to be a fireman.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to be, not only would I wanted to be a fireman, I wanted to be the driver in the hook and ladder in the back.
You knew specifically where you wanted to be.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to be. Now, what does that translate into? Service.
Right.
Service. And lo and behold, I went into the military. I spent 9 years in the military, and the military gave me something that I would have never gotten anywhere else. And it really gave me purpose. It showed me purpose. And when you want to serve for something bigger than yourself, you have a mission for a lifetime.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's funny that I did start mentioning this before we jumped on to the recording today, and it was something I had read recently in a book where a woman who is in the pie making business, and she makes these incredible pies, and she thought she was in the business of selling pies until when she went further and did the introspection that you're speaking of, she discovered that she's not in the business of selling pies, she's in the business of caring for others. And once she understood that, she no longer just focused on making great pies, which is one way of showing love to other people and caring for others. But then she started asking herself, well, how can I greet people at the door of my bakery that would make them feel cared for? And then when they walk across the room, is there music that I could deliberately play that would make them feel cared for, knowing that they're coming from, let's say, a very busy day outdoors? What if I played symphonic music or classical music that might cause them to calm down? So I'm deliberately thinking about how I can care for them. How can I give them the change that they deserve after they've paid for it in a way that makes them feel cared for? And so it's interesting that you were able to identify that being a fireman for you was really just your desire to service others. And once again, after you're introspective about that and you identify that, it doesn't mean then you can do just only one job. You can work for the army. You could be a firefighter. You could be a clergyman. You could be anything you want as long as it comes back to your root principle of serving others.
And here's the thing about that, and here's where I was saying that it just transformed my life. And when we were talking about life and business is similar in the sense that business is about providing a service, and life is about serving one another.
Right.
That's that human connection, that no matter where you are, when you have something that someone else is in need of, that's service.
Right. I mean, you got me thinking just there about the, what do you call it, fast fashion industry, where people have figured out how to make a T-shirt for $3. And at first, my initial reaction was that is somebody who's not servicing others because it's just fast fashion, is not good for the environment. However, there is an argument to be made that there is a need for some individuals on planet Earth who need to be able to buy a T-shirt for that amount, or because they are just so enamored by fashion that they want to be able to switch out their fashion every so often. And for all we know, they're recycling those clothes and donating them to local charities. But I would imagine the organization that makes those cheap $3 T-shirts doesn't see themselves as necessarily servicing a need and being in service to others, but rather sees themselves as making a commodity that is super cheap, and I just have to sell 1 billion of these and I'll make my money. I don't know. I can't project on for sure because I don't know who these people are, but I would imagine that so often so many businesses don't really actually think about the way that they're serving others, even if it's a cheap T-shirt, as opposed to just seeing it as an opportunity to kind of maximize profits.
And again, that's where I'm trying to get people to show them another way, to make that mindset shift, because there is value in there for someone. It's this experience. It's very important that we recognize that we're not here by mistake.
Right.
And we all have value. Mm-hmm. And if I'm giving my value, sharing my value with you, and you're sharing your value with someone else, everyone is getting, here's the thing, I might not get my value from you, but I might get it from someone else connected to you. Like this right here. This is a connection that will last for a lifetime. You and I have met. We cannot unmeet. We cannot unmeet.
Yeah.
Now it's up to us to flourish. It's up to us to nurture it. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is that we will find, and I think as we communicate, as we talk, we will see how we fit.
Yes.
And that's what this is about, an experience that we learn. Is there a synergy? Is there something that I have that you need, that I have? Mm-hmm. And that's what this experience is about, learning where are we? Where do we connect?
Yes.
No matter where we are. It could be at the lowest levels and the highest heights. Mm-hmm. But if we all look at it as we all are part of a puzzle, this is something that I like to share with people. You know, on most pieces of puzzles, I don't know if you've ever done puzzles, but there are 4 pieces of puzzle that is only 2 sides to it. There's 2 sides that you will not match anything to them. Those are the corners.
Right.
Those are 4 sides that you know where they go when you open the box.
Right.
Okay? Everybody else is a spot that only they go in. Mm-hmm. That's it. You don't have to worry about whether or not you are a corner piece. Those are already taken. You're not going to be fitting yourself there. We have to find where we belong, where we fit. Mm-hmm. Not trying to be somewhere that we're not. We don't want to be anywhere that we don't belong.
Yeah.
And so this is where we have to understand, if I find my uniqueness and I find out where I belong, guess what? That's going to show me who belongs around me.
Right. It's funny, when you say this, it reminds me of one of the biggest problems that so many corporations are facing today in the Western Hemisphere is high levels of attrition. You know, you hire somebody, you spend all this money bringing them into the fold, and then they leave in a year. And I've often said people don't leave jobs, they leave people. And so during the interview process and during the onboarding process, they have not given that individual an opportunity to find out where they fit in. as the puzzle to this entire organization. They basically come in, give them a tour, make a few introductions, maybe take them out for lunch on the first day, and then it's like, all right, here's your job description, go for it, and here are the people that you report to and the tasks that you have to achieve. And while all of that is important, if you don't create an authentic space for that person to lock their piece of the puzzle, as you say, into the other people around them, then they're not attached to anything, which makes it that much easier to leave the organization. So we have to connect people by bringing out, as you say, their uniqueness in a way that allows other people to want to connect with them. And then from there, you've got somebody who's no longer leaving a job, they're leaving people, and that's something they just can't leave.
No, and the thing about it is that they find themselves needed, a part of something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. And see, that's all we're here to be connected. And I'm not going to leave something that I'm connected to.
Right.
I mean, if this is where I belong, it's not as though I'm going to be something that I'm not. And what happens is when I leave, typically I'm either frustrated or I've been not given enough attention to be able to show my full potential.
Right.
Or you've done something to me that is, I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. And all we're trying to do is to be our authentic selves. Many cases, we hire because we have a need, and we don't hire for the right person. Because there's a lot of people that will fill a square, but is it the right person for the opportunity? That's a difference. If you just, everybody running in the HR and they go like, okay, we got to keep these people coming in. I got to keep my hires coming because they're going to be leaving. I need to keep the pump always primed. Mm-hmm. But the idea is to find the right people.
Right.
And I know that that's what everybody says, but what are we working on to accomplish that? What are we using to accomplish the right person? And in many cases, I hate to say this, but a lot of us are chasing someone else's dream.
Right.
And if that's the case, all they're going to be doing is just filling a square because they've not found their own authentic self to be able to identify when they don't fit.
Right.
See, every job is not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And when I know where I belong, I'm not applying for something that I don't belong at.
Yeah. It's so funny, isn't it, right? Like knowing thyself, as they say. And when you know yourself, automatically everything becomes that much easier. You go to a social gathering and you meet somebody and you just know this person and I do not jive because I know myself. And so I'm not going to ask for their phone number and say, hey, we should go for a beer sometime. Or if you're dating, same thing, immediately. And the same thing is true for the job hunt or an apartment or a vacation spot. All of these things you will make decisions on, and those decisions will be aligned with who you truly are based on how well you know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, guess what? I don't know why it is. This vacation sucks. Because you don't know yourself. That is not aligned with who you are, and that was the work that you just didn't put in.
Where's that typically shown the most at is in our personal relationships.
Right.
We know as a rule right now that divorce is very high. 40% of people getting married, over 40% of people getting married get divorced.
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
It's not as much about them changing as it is as much as about me not knowing who I am.
Right.
And as a result of you coming in, if you come into that awareness, we come into that awareness and you find the fact is that, boy, that person doesn't necessarily doesn't mesh up to who I've recognized that I myself am. Mm-hmm. And we like to call it growth. Yeah, it's growth. But the fact is that when you begin to get into a collaboration or a relationship such as marriage, which is a bond, We're talking about now, it's a commitment, a bond. It's something that's meant to stick together in spite of what's going on. You find yourself, okay, we call it irreconcilable differences. That's a short word for saying I didn't know that I was going to get to know who I am. I didn't know myself. That's basically what that is. Mm-hmm. I didn't know myself.
That's right. My friend, her name is Annie Lala, and she's a love coach based out of Texas. And she said something one time that really stuck with me. And she said, an intimate relationship with a partner is the best place to learn about who you truly are. And that's the reason why everyone wants to leave them. I just thought that was so brilliant. It's like, right. She said, nowhere else on planet Earth will you find a mirror more put in front of your face where a person now is constantly saying to you, really? You're going to wear that? Oh, you know what? You think that job's good for you? It's like, you know what? When you make those jokes in public, I don't really think they're that funny. We're constantly getting this feedback, which is to say, hey, I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to be introspective. It would just be easier for me to leave this relationship and find a partner where that doesn't happen. And it never happens. You just kind of move your crap to the next pile, as they say. Mm-hmm. So that is really interesting. So I'm curious, when you speak to, whether it's corporations or whether it's just individuals, about this concept of doing the introspection with the intention of being more aligned and thus bringing greater love to the world around them, what kind of pushback do you get? Do you get people feeling like the word love is all hokey pokey, lovey dovey, it's too much? What kind of challenges do you hit head on?
Well, the bigger ones are and I start off by saying that I'm presenting you with an alternative, because for the most part we've heard it as being something emotional and feeling. What I'm doing is taking something that is abstract and making it very concrete. And how do you do that? We use your attitudes. We use the attitudes that now structure how we look at and perceive things that we come in contact with in our daily life. And from that perspective, we're now able to make an adjustment. Now, are you willing to put in the work? And that's why, again, we talk about it really up front. Are you looking for an adjustment? Are you looking for a transformation? If you're not, I'm an alternative to something that's very radical than for what you've known it to be. Mm-hmm. Because it's not about your feelings. It's not about how you are you wanting some type of a warm fuzzy. But what it's to do to you is to show you consistency, show you something that you can consistently do and expect from those that are around you as well as of yourself. And as a result, everybody wins. Everybody wins. It's not like it's something that someone else can do for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to put the work in. And when you put the work in, your results is guaranteed, because you're going to see things that you would have otherwise not been able to see without doing the work.
Right. I see. Okay. So you are giving them almost a framework, if you will, by which to now look at the life around them through a new lens.
Absolutely. And that lens is through attitudes that will allow them to align themselves with the outcomes that they're desiring.
I see. Okay. So step one, let's get you clear on what you actually desire, which is a question that the majority of the world's population has never even thought of. And then step two, now that you know the answer to that question, let's start making decisions that are now aligned within that framework of what it is that I want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because again, the idea, the connection of your attitude and your outcome are inevitable, because they're going to frame every circumstance that you see. Okay. It's going to frame it. Your attitude will frame what it is you see. Mm-hmm. And what then effort you put into it will be based on what you see.
Okay.
How you see it will determine what effort you're going to put into it. Whether it's going to be, I see, here's the thing. understanding that every outcome needs to have some effort. If you're not willing to put the effort in, the outcome is going to be an outcome is going to occur whether or not you put the effort in it or not. Some
Right.
effort is going to be expound in this journey that we're on. Whether it's going to be something that you're going to follow or is it going to be something that you're going to establish.
I see. Okay.
Okay? And that's why your attitude then determines what you're going to establish. Because it's from that perspective you're going to say, okay, I've made a decision, a choice that this is what I'm going to do. Now, everything that I'm going to do now is going to be in line with that choice to do what I said I was going to do. It's sort of like setting a goal, and many of us fail because we don't set goals or we don't make those decisions and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and then stick to it.
Right.
And their obstacles are going to come in your way. Your attitude then tells you, in spite of those obstacles, I'm going to be persistent in getting to my goal by all means necessary. What does that mean? I'm going to do the work, whatever it takes. It's just saying I'm not going to get up. One of the attitudes that we support is tenacity.
Right.
You really have to be bred or driven by not wanting to give up.
Yeah.
There's going to be opportunities, many of them, but you got to be able to say, okay, I've made the decision. I'm not going to be changing. I'm not giving up. I'm going through to the end.
And back to what you were saying earlier, which is the clearer your vision is on the life that you want to have, the more motivated you will be to show up and to show that tenacity, because you are so crystal clear on what the outcome is, and you've even felt what your life might look like had you surrounded yourself with those types of dreams coming true, if you will, that you are now in a position to not even see a hard day's work as being hard. You just see it as part of the process of getting to where you want it to be.
You are absolutely right. That's really, people talk about if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. Mm-hmm. That's the concept there. That's basically talking about, irrespective of what the challenges are, I have a goal, and I'm using this as just a motive or a situation that gets me closer to my goal. And the only way that you don't reach your goal is that you quit.
That's it. Yeah, there's only one other alternative. It gets me thinking about this one great story I remember reading about Nelson Mandela. And he talks about how when he was imprisoned as a political prisoner, they used to have this horrible job. Every day they'd have to be brought out to the yard, and the other political prisoners, they would take these picks and they would pick at these big rocks and turn them into small pieces of stone and into gravel, put it into big sacks, put it onto a wheelbarrow, move it into its spot, go back to the next rock. Well, one day the warden comes in and he says, all right, boys, jump into the back of this truck. We're going to go for a little ride. Takes them for a nice long ride, and they go to the outskirts of Robben Island. And he said, when we get out, we're looking up at this blinding wall of limestone on the side of a mountain. And the warden says, look, I'm not going to lie. This is going to be backbreaking work. I need you to chip great big pieces of limestone off that wall day in, day out, and then move it down to the other end of this road, and then go back and do it all again in the blistering heat and in the blinding light. And he says, but just do this job for me for the next 6 months, and then I'll get you a better job on the island. And as Nelson Mandela tells the story, he says, well, it turns out that warden's math wasn't very good, because we didn't do that job for 6 months. We did that job for the next 13 years. And when I thought about, how hard and difficult and challenging that would be for an individual to go through that, not just for a week, but for 13 years, you do find yourself asking, how does a person get through that? How do they show up every single day and not give up? And I realized that Nelson Mandela, he would have always just had that goal and that eye on the prize of one day seeing his country in the way that he envisioned it, and eliminating the corruption and giving the people the power back. And I think that once he was so focused on that potential, it allows him to show up and do that backbreaking work for not just those 13 years, but I believe, if I remember correctly, he was in that prison for 27. And so it just goes to show you the power of having your eyes locked in on a result that you so badly want. And when you do, you will amaze yourself as to the kind of tenacity that you have within you.
And that's, again, the one thing that I use when I say that. I talk about being a part of something bigger than yourself. When he saw his country, see, everything that he was talking about, it was the betterment of others.
Right.
People ask me what my definition of love. It's basically, it's the ability to act on behalf of others with no return, nothing in return, nothing, with no expectations of anything in return.
Right.
And see, that tells you that now my motivation is not about me. It's about something greater. It's a selfless motivation.
Right.
Not a selfish one. And see, love it will show up. It will tell on you real quick. If you're saying I love you, but you're acting selfishly, that's not love.
Yeah. You'll be sniffed out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Well, what was your childhood like, and what role did it play in you becoming this person who now is so dedicated to bringing greater love to the world?
Well, see, it's very interesting because one of the bigger things that I had to learn was that I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't do it by myself. And what happened was I came to realize, and I guess I'll tell you the bigger story, and that was I have a learning disability.
Okay.
That was undiagnosed until I was 37 years old.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Now, in spite of that learning disability, I learned to overcome it without knowing what it was.
No kidding. So did you know, and I want to hear what it was, but for the first 37 years of your life, had you been able to kind of almost self-diagnose yourself with something that you knew you had to overcome, or were you just in the woods?
Oh, I was in the woods.
Oh, yeah?
I was fighting a ghost. I was fighting a ghost, and I'm talking about in the ring every day, waking up, going to battle with no idea as to which way I was going to have to swing.
Wow. So did your life look like? What was this, challenge you were facing?
I have a memory deficiency, a memory deficiency.
No way. Okay. And how does that show up?
Can you imagine?
Well, I mean, it's pretty, I guess, self-evident, this fact that you probably, but I mean, specifically, like growing up, like.
I was in special education, and they never diagnosed it. They just said it was something.
All right.
So that tells me, okay, so what happened is I get to high school, I'm graduating from high school, never failed anything. Here's where I'm in special education, never failed anything, but it's special education. You take that for what it's worth.
Right.
But now I'm 17 years old and about to graduate. They've been treating me with these cotton gloves, and now all of a sudden, now what? And so I'm going out and I'm looking out at this world, this big world, going, now what? What am I supposed to do? I don't think life is going to be special edding me.
That's a great way of putting it. What were your parents saying, if I can just interject at this time? Were they like, okay, Juan, see ya, good luck?
To be honest with you, my mom was saying, and this at this point, this goes a little bit deeper back, my birth mother died when I was 6.
Oh, my.
My dad remarried when I was about 9, and my stepmom was a school teacher.
Okay.
And in spite of doing what she could do to help me, there was no diagnosis.
Right.
And so, there was no diagnosis. And it was interesting. I was 37 years old when I got diagnosed.
Right.
So my parents did everything they could. I was going to tutors. I was doing everything. But it was as though they were just trying, the system. And I'm not, and a little bit I'm knocking, don't get me wrong. But the system wasn't for identifying my uniqueness. It was about getting me through the system.
Got it. Right. Yeah.
And I didn't measure up So they put me in a place where they could push me through the system.
Right.
That was where I was.
So you pop out at the other end of the system. There you are, 17 years old, and now what?
Don't know. I'm frustrated. I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm lost. I'm looking just to survive. Mm-hmm. My mom wanted me to go to school. I liked to cook. She was like, well, go to culinary school. Mm-hmm. I was like, at this time now, you got to put this in perspective. This is the early 80s.
Right.
That wasn't the masculine thing to be a cook.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like everybody running around with a food truck it is like today.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There wasn't the Food Network.
Yeah, and back then it was, who was it? The Galloping Gourmet and Julia Childs were the only people cooking.
Yeah.
And so now we got everybody. But at that time, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. And all I wanted to do was get as far away from school as possible. Okay. Because that was my identity was in not measuring up. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, no. So I went into the military. And out of all of the branches, I got into the Air Force.
Okay. Interesting.
The Air Force, I was shocked, surprised that I was able to get in, but was able to get in. Now, here again, this is a time test they call the ASVAB to get me into the military, which is, again, I don't know that I have a memory deficiency.
Right.
A time test is my worst enemy. My worst enemy.
Oh, yeah.
That will come back to play a vital part in my journey. I go through basic training. I go through do all of the other things in there, but there's one test in basic training. It's a reading comprehension test. You have 30 minutes to read this and answer these questions. I failed that test 4 times.
Wow.
The last time I took that test was the test that would have allowed me to get kicked out of the military if I did not pass it, because they would have said I was unable to meet military standards. Mm-hmm. I passed the test by 1 point. And I took the test, 9 times.
No kidding. Wow. And through the process of you taking that test, I'm guessing you've got higher ranked officers pulling you aside going, Juan, what's the problem, man? Like, I know you're working hard. Why are you not passing this test?
Here's the thing that's so interesting. While I was here I am, the first year they give you 12 months to pass this test. By this time, I've gone through basic training. I've gone through my technical school. I'm on my first duty assignment. Mm-hmm. When anyone gets in a situation like this, they tell you, okay, you have to be working on day shift so that you can go to a class so that you can get some type of, help.
Extra help
in this help, right? And I told them, I said, no, I'm not doing that. Put me where you want me to put me, and I will use my time to do what's needed to pass that test. I was at my duty station for 9 months doing this class on my time, and I had to put in, I think it was like 4 hours a week in this class. And I did it on my time. So my supervisors and my officers, they were unaware of the fact that I was doing this, because I was doing it on my time. So I was doing my work that they were having me do with everybody else. Because the thing that I learned in basic training was first time I failed the test, I realized that we were a team. And when I was having to go to get this remedial training, everybody else was doing other tasks. And I was not looked upon as somebody that was getting away with something. They saw that I had a need that I needed to work on, and they pulled everybody together so that we all stuck together. And I didn't feel like I was, special or anything. I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself. Even though I needed help, they allowed me to feel a part of something bigger than myself.
Right.
And that was what started this journey of me realizing that I could do anything when I'm a part of something bigger than myself.
Interesting. Okay. So when you pass that test, then is it now kind of somewhat hunky dory? All right, got that out of the way. Now you've got the obviously difficult job of being in the armed forces, or in this case, the Air Force. But that was the kind of the final piece of that puzzle. So you walk away after, I think you said 9 years of being in the Air Force, and you'd seen now this. How incredible things can be when you are part of something bigger than yourself, especially when you're part of a team. Was it from there that when you left that you decided you want to start really pursuing that, or was it more of this was just beginning to get cultivated in the back of your mind?
It was just beginning, because it now began to be not what I did, it was becoming who I was.
Right.
And it was that attitude that I didn't know that had been fostering in the back of, who I am. It's like I do think differently. I do see things differently. And I respond differently. But that requires something special, not necessarily special, but it requires something unusual from normal speaking. When people talk about people in the military getting out of the military and they're becoming a civilian again, it's as though it means something different to be a civilian, and it's better being a civilian than being a military.
Right.
It's like, that's the opposite in my opinion, because the military has shown us something that for many people never get a chance to understand, the bigger picture. And the things that we're talking about is, we have aligned ourselves with something bigger than ourselves for the purpose of our country.
Right.
And until people realize and recognize what it really means to be patriotic, is to really put something on the line for what it is you believe.
Yeah.
And when the number one thing that we do as military people is we sign on the line and say that we're willing to sacrifice our very lives for the sake of this country.
It's a big deal.
That's an attitude, that's a mindset that there's no other.
Yeah. It's one thing to see it on the billboard at the local football game. It's a whole other thing to have that pen in your hand and actually be saying, the second that I finish this last E in my name, I'm in, and I've made that commitment, which that's an incredible thing. So what was your journey then from there into wanting to speak about this and coach on this and to write a book on this subject?
Well, it started after I came out of the military, and after 9 years in, and it was interesting. I got out of the military because I wanted to share it with my family.
All right.
I wanted to share it with my family. But come to find out is that I'm the baby boy of my family. And so I left home at 18 years old, came back at 27, and they were like, "Who are you?"
I bet.
And so the response was not very receptive, because it was so contradictory. I mean, it was not the norm. It was like, what are you talking about? Why are you're talking about some type of euphoria that doesn't exist.
Right.
And I said, it does if you want it to. You've got to want it.
Yeah.
And that's where I begin to share it with those who would be willing to hear it.
Did you go through a frustrating period there, hoping that your family would have been receptive and realizing that you almost had to find a new audience?
Absolutely. I mean, that frustration, to a degree, it still exists.
Yeah, I know all about it.
It still exists, but as I've developed and grown in knowing and understanding how to share it, and I realized that it's not for everybody. But I tell you, the impact is it's humongous.
Right.
For those that want to know and to connect to it, I mean, it's truly where it says love never fails. It's literally never fails when you apply it appropriately.
So when you think about the ways that you do want to apply it in your community with organizations, your local church, whatever it may be, what do you get most excited about? Is it the idea of saying, oh my gosh, give me 1,000, salespeople from an organization, and I would love nothing more than to infuse them with greater love? Or is it like, you know what, I've got a sweet spot. I just like going down to my local church. What are you most jacked up about now when you think about it?
Ultimately, the bigger picture is to get a group together, a community,
right,
that has a clear understanding of the value and the power of love.
Okay.
And just spread that out amongst the world.
Right.
It's the practical application of love.
Mm-hmm.
It is not something that we have to feel, but it's actually something that people can touch, something that I can see.
Right.
And when I can see it, that's what happened with me in the military. It was basically, I saw love in action.
Mm.
When I saw the sacrifice, I saw the caring, the courage, I saw the tenacity, I saw the discipline, I saw the responsibility, all of the characteristics of love, I saw them. I was able to then duplicate. I was able to follow them.
I see. Okay. So when you are, let's say, for example, aiding and abetting a community of individuals to spread that love, what have you seen in the past? Like, how has that transpired? Is it a community of individuals, picking up the trash in the neighborhood, or starting a program for youth? Like, what have you seen?
Personally, it's just a lot of personal development. But it's so amazing as it relates to how it has impacted everybody. It's very difficult for love to be established in a person that it's not demonstrated to others. So the impact is in your family. It's in your job. It's in your community. It's inevitable. It will infuse in every area of your life, in your health, in your job, anywhere where you are. The thing that my nonprofit is all about, and the nonprofit that I created was called Clear Journey. It's about understanding the circle of life, everything, the cycles of every aspect of your life. Love is at the core, is at the center of it. Mm-hmm. It will allow you to have a healthier, more fulfilling relationships, every area of your life.
Right.
There is absolutely nothing that love can't address. Mm-hmm. When you know how to do it.
So ultimately, then, you're inspiring people to make love kind of almost a priority before anything else happens, before you parent, before you go to your job, before you go to your local kids' basketball game. Ask yourself, where can I actively bring love to this experience?
It's a little bit, here's the thing. It's sort of like this. Wherever you go, have a desire to want to demonstrate it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
No matter where you go. Mm-hmm. The grocery store, over to Chipotle, McDonald's. It's how do you respond? And it's in that moment. Because many times it's those moments that trip us up.
Right.
But when we are equipped with what it takes, and love is leading, and we're being guided by it, it begins to allow situations and circumstances to not to be so overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And we're able to respond out of who we are, not just the experience that we're engaging in. We now stay true to who we are. And that's that having that mindset of being able to say, okay, I'm going to demonstrate love in this moment.
Right. Yeah.
Instead
You're looking
of-
for it.
Yeah, I'm looking for, and that's anyway, I'm looking for opportunities to demonstrate it.
Yes. I talk about this when I speak about the importance of human connection. And one of the things I often say to people is just look for the questions that you haven't been looking for. And when you open yourself up to the possibility that there are questions that you don't normally ask, then when you're speaking to anyone, anywhere, your brain will say, hey, this would be a great opportunity for you to show up and ask that question. So it could be a server in a restaurant, and you start chatting with them and they start telling you about what college they go to. And in most cases, a person will respond by saying, oh, that's really great. You must like it there. Or I knew somebody who went there, which is fine. But when you are looking for the better question, you may say, hey, so what's been your best experience so far in going to that school? And the second they answer that question, it might lead you to another really great question that you could ask that person. And within 2 or 3 questions, you're now connecting with them in a meaningful way. And I even say this, when your husband, your wife, your partner, they come home from work and they walk in and we automatically say, how was work today, honey? Nothing wrong with that. But I really want to infuse in people to look for the other question, like, at what point during work today did you feel most frustrated? Or what would you say was your biggest win today at work? And again, when we change the questions, we change the answer, we change the relationship. And so in your case, you're saying, hey, if you walk into McDonald's, you walk into the basketball game, you walk into work, and you ask yourself, what could I do today or in this moment to bring a greater amount of love to the space that I happen to be occupying? Just by asking yourself that question, your brain will say, well, we could go high-five the receptionist. We've never done that before. And you high-five the receptionist and you're bringing love to that person's life. But you wouldn't have done it had you not asked yourself that question.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things that's really interesting, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but on many occasions you saw a skit or a video on social media, and the person pulls up to the drive-in window and he pays for the person behind him.
Right. Yeah, I've seen those. So
See,
fun.
those are those moments. How can going through the drive-through, you want to show up? You want to demonstrate love? Pay for the guy behind you.
Yeah.
You want to know how that person's you're going to impact that person, not only in that meal, but into the rest of that person's life.
That's right.
You can imagine what it didn't know you have no, and you drive off and you will never meet him, but you will have impacted that person for their entire life.
You've just instilled a certain level of hope in humanity for that person, where they will forever not know whether that person who's standing behind them in line or at the next desk in their office could be someone who's just like the person that bought them that meal at that local restaurant. And the multiplier effect that is forever.
The impact that's going to play on the psyche of that person, you just can't explain it.
That's right.
And especially if that person is just having a terrible day.
Yes.
The worst. Oh. If that day is going extremely bad, and then for them to turn their day around, meaning that there's hope. Remember, when I was 17, it was like I felt hopeless.
Yeah.
I felt hopeless. And when I found out who I was, what I had to offer, I had something to offer. Mm-hmm. It changed my perspective on life.
I bet. Let me ask you, what role does forgiveness play for you in the concept of love? And part 2 to that is, have you had to become better at it, or have you ever had to forgive somebody in a way that caused you to grow and expand your own offering of love?
I'm going to tell you, there is forgiveness is a byproduct of love. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
When you're able to demonstrate love, you have less need to have to forgive because you're operating out of this sense of compassion. Even when someone is offending you, it's as though it didn't happen. Because my desire for that person is that in many cases, people who offend you don't know what they don't know. And you've heard the saying, hurt people hurt people.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Hurt people hurt people. When you identify and recognize that concept and someone has hurt you, they're hurting.
Right.
I don't have to forgive them because they're hurting.
Yes.
I have to be compassionate. I need to be more compassionate for them than angry or bitter because of them.
Right.
That's a different mindset.
Nobody acts without there being some sort of influence in their life over the way that they are choosing to act in that moment. I got to tell you, I struggle with that one so much because then I get really pragmatic about it. And I'll say, well, surely still, though, there is a level of common sense for that person that maybe should have realized that it wasn't nice to slam the door in front of my child's face. Or there'd be common sense for this person to not just cut me off and put so many people at risk in their car. And I know it's a battle between, it's a balancing act between me realizing that hurt people. At the same time, I wonder what role common sense plays in all of it. And I really do have to kind of do my best to grow in that area.
Well, I mean, but again, we all have to come to that understanding. But when you think about you're just that person that they're demonstrating their hurt towards. Mm-hmm. And common sense is really not playing a part in this because think about it, is hurt is emotions, is feelings. They're not logical. They don't have any logic in it at all.
Right. Yeah,
and they're acting out of something, out of some pain. They're covering up something. And so for us to associate logic with them hurting you is where we can begin to see the value in understanding and not having to hold it against them. The act of them hurting you. I know that's a difficult thing. I know it is. Mm-hmm. But it's being understanding that process is that it comes from someplace deeper than that hurt that they are demonstrating to you.
Right. Fair.
And when you can grasp that, you understand logic has nothing to do with this.
Right.
Has absolutely nothing to do with it. And when we interject logic into it, we're basically saying to them, that's the way that I can justify my feelings towards them.
Right.
And I don't want to have negative feelings toward them. Because here is what? Everybody has purpose. Right. They haven't recognized theirs yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm easy with that.
So what you're saying then, if I'm getting this right, is first of all, the second you try to attach logic or common sense to the way a person is acting who happens to be hurting you, you are in a sense almost putting yourself into your own prison, your own state of suffering, because logic and common sense isn't even in the room for that person. This is just a game I'm playing with myself.
Absolutely. Because now again, and here's the point, his logic or her logic and your logic they're probably nowhere near the same. Because now we're talking about our experiences now. Mm. We've based our logic based on our experiences, and they could be totally different.
Right. So from that perspective, then, would you argue that forgiveness almost becomes irrelevant simply because what's there to forgive if the person who did the thing that you see as a grievance towards you didn't even see it as a grievance in the first place? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. But and here's the thing. Forgiveness is for you anyway. It's not for the other person.
Unpack that for me.
Here's the point. Forgiveness is so that I can move on past the offense.
Okay.
And just as you said, they might not even know that they've offended you. They don't even feel it. They moving on with their life. Ain't even hesitated.
Right.
And yet you're in bondage to your own impression of their experience, your experience with them.
Right. I went through an experience literally just last night. No, I should say 2 nights ago, where a friend of mine who lives many thousands of miles away, who I was like very close to in high school, had, I guess you could call it, offended me a couple of years ago. And in a way that I've been carrying the frustration, anger, hurt from that experience. And so I decided that I was going to do a voice message, send it to him, and come from a place of love as much as I possibly could and say, hey, no ill feelings, man. Just want to let you know I've been thinking about this for a long time. And my daughter had pulled out some pictures of me and him and asked me who this person was recently, which reminded me of the scenario. And so I sent this big, long voice message. He sends a message back, and it turns out, for the most part, I don't think he was even on his radar. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, I am carrying this around with me, assuming, of course, he must be carrying it around with him as well. And I'm the one who's put myself in this state of suffering for what could be up to 2 years. It's ridiculous and laughable when you think about it.
Well, but that's how we get caught in bondage to our own experiences.
Right.
Because they gone. They moved on.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that you can move on.
You're doing it for yourself.
You're forgiving them so you can move on.
Right. So the gift is not necessarily to them, but it's to yourself.
It's to yourself.
Wow.
It is to yourself. Let it go.
Oh, man, I love that. I love that. I mean, you can wrap your head around that. You can wrap your head around a lot of big things.
Well, and that's the idea. That's the idea of this, is that we've got to change the perspective on how we see things. And we're looking for someone to make us feel good about someone else. Think about it. We're looking for someone else to make us feel good about ourselves.
Right. I mean, talk about relinquishing your responsibility and the opportunity to be the one who can be in control of that and to be empowered to do that for yourself, which is phenomenal.
And that's the journey. That's the journey that we're talking about, is
Right.
being able to manage this thing called life in a way that we can be successful and have fulfillment. We can't be letting someone else pull the triggers and chains on us, and we're being, led through this thing called life. No, we want to be the author and the finisher of our journey.
Right. I love that. Let me ask you a couple more questions before I let you go, because I've already taken up so much of your time. I want to ask you this. When we talk about what we're talking about here, I mean, essentially we're talking about the idea of raising our consciousness and our awareness as human beings. Mm-hmm. Do you have hope for humanity that, knowing we still have so many individuals, even myself included, who have so much work to do in this department, are we going to get there, or are we going to end in peril? Or is the jury still out on this?
I'll be honest with you. Over the last 2-3 years, with the invention of AI, mm-hmm. And our greed and our ego, we have to be cautious.
Yeah.
Because we are in a space where humanity as we know it will not exist if we continue on the path that we're on.
Agreed.
And we need to recognize it and put some provisions in place to protect humanity.
Yes.
I believe that the tool needed to protect humanity is love.
Yes. Agreed.
And when I talk about that bigger picture, that thing that's bigger that we all have in common, is humanity.
Yeah.
And when we allow love to be the tool that we use to, with the idea of protecting humanity, it will never fail. Love will never fail, and we will prevail through time going forward if we allow love to prevail, if we give it to and learn the power of love.
Where do you feel is the area in which it is now needed the most? Is it in schools, communities, corporations, governments? Where do we need to start?
You know, I there is no place that is not needed.
Sure,
Okay?
yeah, that's agreed.
It's no place that is not needed, and anywhere that it's that it can be seen, it's great. But what I believe is that it has to start in the family, at the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there is nothing that we've not learned, if anything that we haven't learned in the last few years here, is that we are easily influenced at the level, at the individual level. And if we don't have the need or the idea of understanding the value of the home, of the foundation that is laid in the home, that's how we got here. We lost that. We've got to get it back. We've got to start at home. And that takes, and again, that means sacrifice.
Yes.
It means sacrifice on all areas, all aspects. We have to understand and recognize that what does it take? What does it take for humanity to survive at the family level?
Mm-hmm.
At the family level.
Yeah, start there and let it spread out. It reminds me of a conversation I was having today with a woman who lives in Europe, and she was telling me about how her husband did the very non-traditional European thing, which is now becoming the common thing, and that is, you leave home, you leave your community, you go and get that big job in the big world. And his mother has gone into a state of depression. And whereas for generations, it was so common that, you didn't move that far away from the house you grew up in. You were still very much involved in the community, and you still helped out the parents, and you were there for Sunday dinner. And we have lost that. And I don't know what the exact answer is, because I feel like on some level, part of our evolution is to be able to create a world where we can become people that can work anywhere, anytime, and to have these experiences. But at the same time, we can't forego or sacrifice those important relationships that we had in the home and need to continue to have in order to, I guess, use our own houses and apartments as launching pads for love.
Well, I agree. And the thing about it is that there's both of those scenarios can be true, and both sides of it, where we can be consistent and being there in our communities and yet still reach our full potentials.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe that that's a breakdown at the macro level. Okay. Because we're here in America. We need to feel that in Russia, in China, in Korea, in Africa, we're all connected. Now, we've realized that, interesting enough, that globally we recognize that commerce-wise, we are connected. And as you notice, that's being challenged right now. But in the same sense, being able to exclude ourselves and isolate ourselves is not what this world is about.
Right.
And so on that macro level, it's, yes, we can do this thing. But on the micro level, we can do it also. And that's what I'm saying. When we do it at the micro level, it should translate into the macro level.
You're right. And I think that if anything, it's probably the micro level is the one area that you have any kind of control over anyway. If you want to try to, make a bigger difference in the world, it's amazing to me now how often you see even politicians taking on these big world problems. And it's like, why don't you just get your home in order, your city, your town in order, and then we can talk about, the issues that are facing geopolitics all around the world. So I've got one last question for you then before I let you go, my friend. I could talk to you for hours, but that's very clear. What is your ultimate wish then for either the people you lead, or for your own community, or for the world as a whole? Besides like just loving more, specifically, what do you want for them?
Well, I think here we are is full fulfillment. We want each and every person to reach their full potential, and to not measure that against anybody else.
Right.
If you reach your full potential, you can leave this life with the investment that will live on long after you're gone. And that's what this is. We have to look at this time that we're here, this dispensation, as something of an investment. Because as we all know, we're going to live longer in deceased than we will in life. We will be deceased longer than we will have experienced life.
Right.
This is just an investment into a longer experience that we can play long after we're gone. They're going to be we're understanding who was here hundreds of years ago today.
Right.
And they have been gone for hundreds of years, at least 100 years or so.
Right, if not longer, yeah.
But that's the investment, as understanding that this is just a small, small time. This is where you're working. The labor is done.
Right.
But the benefit comes going to be long after you're gone.
Yes. What a great way of looking at things. Thinking about how will you impact humanity long after you're gone, and it will all be directly related to the investment you've chosen to make today.
It's the legacy.
That's the legacy. Wow, Juan, I tell you, man, you have definitely dropped quite a few truth bombs today, and so much to unpack, so much for me to just process. This is one of those conversations where you need to sit down and just absorb all the important stuff that you've said, and it feels so hopeful to me and so fulfilling to me to know that there are other individuals out there who are genuinely waking up in the morning with the intention of making the world a better place, and in this case through love and fulfillment, and recognizing that it is at the core of who we truly are. And so I think the work that you're doing with your non-for-profit and your book, and the work you do with organizations and individuals and communities is so important. And for that reason, for those of you who are watching or listening, I strongly encourage you to take a look at all the details in which we give you beneath this podcast, so that you know how to contact and to connect with Juan, because I think there's a million ways in which you will be able to benefit if you do so. Juan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to be here. I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been.
I tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to be any other place. I really appreciate this. The connection here, I believe, will live long on after I'm gone.
Well, I think that you definitely not just talk the talk, but you walk the walk. And so you just proved that today with our show. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to stay in touch with you until now and the day we die.
Hey, long after that. We'll be spreading it long after we're gone.
That's the truth. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of You Gotta Meet, and I hope that you will continue to do so in the future. Keep joining us. Keep remembering that it's all about just trying to have those meaningful human connections with other individuals with the intention, as Juan says, to spread that love and to keep on making the world a better place, as cliche as it may sound. So until then, we will see you soon on another episode of You Gotta Meet.